War and money. France President Macron's visit to China. We want to get rid of the dollar and the USA. We want to make our own decisions. We are not a mandate. Statement fueled the global struggle more than ever. Former US President Trump also went on Fox and made a mess. So what was going on? Who was going where? Is the dollar collapsing? Where would Turkey take place? In what position would it be? The USA was the country with the most debt in the world. The numbers are right there. For example, an article I read and made a note of in 2019 included the following. The US government collected $3.3 trillion in taxes last year, but spent $4.1 trillion. It had to borrow $779 billion just to cover expenses. National debt is $1.2 trillion, increased by more than $21.5 trillion. And the net interest on this debt amounted to $371 billion. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that America will spend more on interest than national defense in 10 years. Imagine it's been 4 years since this article. The numbers went even higher. The US has been in this situation for years. His power comes from managing it. The USA is in debt. Net. About 50% of the world's debt is in dollars. And international trade. About 60% of foreign exchange reserves are in dollars. When there is a demand for dollars, there is a demand for US Treasury bills and bonds. The US maintains its dominance. The US dollar was not always a reserve currency. Before the First World War, the British pound was the dominant currency. The dollar was almost never used outside the borders of America. The British pound was incredible to gold and was the reserve currency. In the previous century, France was in this position. Great ruptures, wars led to the change of sovereignty. When the First World War started, the states abandoned the gold standard to meet their expenses. The centralized U.S. financial power began to spread this to the world. In 1919, England could not stand it. The dollar also started to rise, and it found its place in the first place. The dollar's position as the world's reserve currency strengthened during the Second World War. America sold weapons, supplies, and other goods to the Allied powers in exchange for gold. By the end of the war, the United States had most of the world's gold reserves. In Bretton Woods, the dominance of the dollar was recognized by everyone. After the Second World War, more than 90% of the world's debt was in dollars. But the economic downturn of the early 1970s caused nations to lose faith in the stability of the dollar. Thus, they began to demand gold for the dollars they held in reserve. Instead of watching American gold reserves run out, President Richard Nixon said, "Game over. Dollar is dollars, gold is gold. There is no more ties. Our money is print as we want." It was already at the same time that he went to China and started the awakening there. Of course, there was the agreement with the Saudis. Saudi Arabia would trade oil only with dollar, and the USA would protect them forever. When this agreement came into effect, dollar continued on its way without being dependent on gold. So oil was flying the dollar. As I often write, the real rival of the USA was the European Union. It could very well be read as the war between the dollar and euro. Russia's entry into Ukraine and Britain's farewell to the EU with Brexit were moves that had the same denominator. Apart from Macron, there were many leaders in Europe who wanted a break with the USA. They dream of the euro being a reserve money. But look at the last 10 years. Take a look at the terrorist attacks in Europe. Remember Paris, Nice, Berlin, Brussels, London. The blood took the body. Adjustments have occurred. There is no more peace. Owell wanted to divide the EU so that euro could not get stronger and reserve money could not be. This was the inner conflict. China wanted to come from Asia and aimed to establish the throne with Yuan. For this, they were hanged with all their might. But the obstacle before them was transparency. That's why they stumbled. Seeing this, British political economist Mark Blyth told the New York Times, "There is no alternative to the dollar. We are stuck with the dollar, which gives the US surprising structural strength." It was also a fact that everything had an end. There was a relationship between money and dominion, woven with wars and crises. The debt of the USA was increasing gradually, but the money to replace the dollar could not show itself.